tragedy of the USS Indianapolis and its crew was the worst naval disaster in American history. Survivors like Dick Thelen spent 5 nights and 4 days without food and water in shark-infested waters. The only thing that kept them going was hope. World War II would only last for 8 more months when Dick Thelen enlisted in the U.S. Navy in December 1944. At 17 years old, he made a decision that would change his life forever. Being only 17, his dad reluctantly signed for him with Dick's prompting that the war was all but over. In January 1945, he was sent to Great Lakes, Illinois for Navy boot camp. After a few days at home, he was then sent to San Diego. Dick relates, one day 100 to 200 sailors were stood in rows and counted off by twos. 1, 2, 1, 2, down the line. All the ones were sent to the USS New Jersey. All the twos went to the USS Indianapolis. Dick Thelen was a 2. The USS Indianapolis, nicknamed the Indy, was being repaired in dry dock after being hit by a kamikaze off Okinawa. Special brackets were installed on the hangar deck for a special cargo. On July 16, a large crate was lifted into the brackets and the Indy left for Pearl Harbor. None of the sailors knew what it was or why there were Marines guarding it. Scuttlebutt ran rampant about the contents, but moreover, the rumors focused on the speed of the ship. They averaged 30 knots and set the record for a ship to travel from California to Hawaii, 72 hours, a record that has never been broken. The old-timers on the ship wondered what the hurry was all about.
In listening to what the rest of the crew was saying, Richard understood that this was going to be a special mission. Their mission was to take the first atomic bomb, the one that would be used in the attack on Hiroshima. It was to take it to the island of Tinian so it could be staged for the final preparations to be made.
After refueling at Guam, the Indy sailed for the Philippines. A destroyer escort was denied, and the captain was told there were not any enemy between there and Leyte Gulf. Once again, the ship ran at full speed. Just before midnight, on July 30, 1945, Dick had come off duty and decided, like many others, to sleep on the deck of the ship as the temperatures below were reaching over 100 degrees. About 10 minutes after midnight, Dick was thrown in the air as the first Japanese torpedo hit the bow of the ship. Not long after, the second torpedo hit amidships.
And unfortunately for the men aboard the USS Indianapolis, it hits a powder magazine and one of the fuel bunkers. And so there is a giant explosion. The whole deck of the ship is engulfed in flames in the middle. They just start handing out more life jackets and getting the rafts and things off of the ship. The men, of course, trying to paddle away as fast as they can from the ship so they're not taken down with undertow. People like Dick were able to safely get off the ship, are watching other men hanging on as the ship uprights. The stern of the ship comes almost straight up in the water. And of course, some of them are falling, some of them are jumping off. The propeller screws are still turning, some of them are hitting that as they jump. And within just a few minutes, there's nothing there anymore. The ship's just gone.
Out of the almost 1,200 on board, 880 would go into the water that night, some in life rafts, most in just life jackets. Many of the wounded died on that first day. With the calmer seas came the sharks. They would hear a man scream, then he would be gone. It was pure carnage.
And of course, people are bleeding in the water, and it creates a feeding frenzy. And the sharks start picking off guys that are by themselves. And this is just the first day.
The men eagerly awaited rescue ships. They had thought by Tuesday afternoon, the Indy would be missed at Leyte, and other ships would be sent to figure out what happened. This was not the case. Through error and miscommunication, no one in Leyte had any idea that the Indy had not made it. By Wednesday morning, many men gave up hope of being rescued.
You know, some guys just start out of pure exhaustion and desperation, you know, for something to quench their thirst, or drinking the salt water. And of course, they're starting to go mad because of it. Some of them just took off their life jackets and drifted under the water. Thelen was not one of those. He would grab extra life jackets. In fact, he had 3 or 4 on him when they picked him up, just to try to stay afloat. Food and water is non-existent, except for those in the rafts and stuff. And Dick Thelen was not ever in one of the rafts.
"If you kept up hope, you survived," said Thelen. "My dad signed for me to enlist at 17. He told me, 'I want you to come home, Dick.' Every time I felt like giving up, I could see my dad's face, and I wouldn't give up. Dad got me home." By Thursday, the number of men alive had dwindled considerably. They were spread out over 25 square miles of ocean. It was hard to keep the hope of rescue alive. And then the miracle happened.
Thursday afternoon is the day that it just happened. They were doing a routine patrol, and the plane flies over and sees a little bit of an oil slick still, but he can see the sheen of the oil on the faces of these guys as the sun hits it. And he flies down lower and realizes that there are just hundreds of men in the water.
The remaining men knew they'd be saved. The next to arrive was a PBY seaplane with Lieutenant Marks at the controls. Against orders, he landed his plane and was able to save 56 men from the water. Unfortunately, some of the men died of exhaustion while trying to get to the seaplane. Dick Thelen and 3 other men spotted a raft that was dropped and began to swim toward it. 2 of the men died of exhaustion. The 3rd was taken by a shark. Only Dick made it to the raft. Thelen said, "I made a vow with my buddy that if either of us made it and the other didn't, we would go tell each other's parents." He was the one taken by the shark. I did go see his mother eventually, but never told her about the shark. That night and the next day, destroyers were on the scene to pick up the survivors. Out of the 880 men that survived the sinking of the Indianapolis, only 317 were rescued. Dick finished his Navy service at Grosse Ile and Selfridge, Michigan. He drove truck for 44 years before retiring. He was one of the last few survivors when he passed away on September 13th, 2021. He was not the only Michigan man on the USS Indianapolis. There were 99 total, out of which 19 survived. Dick summed up their experience by saying, "We were just so damned close to death. You know, just one puff of air is all we have left. Had that plane not spotted us, we all would have died. Never give up."